The Mahamrityunjay mantra, which you hear so frequently. It's one of the most sacred mantras that we have, and it's something that's chanted at so many different ways, different times of life. We chant it every evening in the sacred yagna ceremony that we have. But there's a piece of it that for me is especially important, that I was reminded of tonight as you were chanting it. Because a lot of times when we're embarking on our spiritual path, it feels very much like it's this grit your teeth very hard, abstain from this, abstain from that it's this path of lots of sweat, perspiration, difficulty. And the mantra, I won't use too much time tonight, but it's a beautiful teaching, because it speaks about, oh God, make me like that fruit that is so ripe that it automatically disengages itself from the vine. Meaning, when we talk about that sense of detachment on a spiritual path, and we talk about abstaining from or not being attached to, whether it's material possessions, whether it's particular types of relationships, whether it's just the general stress and strain of a daily life. It's not make me detached from it through great pressure and lots of work and, pull me off that. Because as we know, that usually doesn't work. We know that repression and suppression and denial are just not things that a powerful spiritual path can ever be rooted in. It has to be rooted in a growing, a blossoming, a flowering on the inside that automatically renders us unattached to the rest. And this mantra is so beautiful because it speaks exactly of that. Most things that you have to pull off a vine, from flowers to fruit to zucchini to pumpkins, whatever it is that grows on a vine, most things when we pull them off, they have to be really, then you get the pumpkin off the vine, then you get your zucchini off the vine. But the fruit that is spoken of in this mantra is a fruit that actually, when it becomes fully ripe, automatically disengages itself from the vine. Automatically. No pulling necessary, no violence necessary, no sweat and strain necessary. Doesn't require someone to come in and just, it happens automatically. And it reminds us on our spiritual path, instead of working on separating yourself from the vine, work on making yourself ripe. Work on enabling yourself to be so ripe, so ready on the inside, that all of the rest, whether it's attachment to possessions, whether it's greed, whether it's sexual desire, whether it's anger, whether it's all of these things that we know we're not supposed to have on our spiritual path, that aren't supposed to be consuming us, But instead of doing battle with them, instead of trying to fight them off, work instead on getting yourself so ripe that automatically that vine, those chains, just automatically falls off. And it's such a beautiful reminder, because very frequently the mantra gets chanted when people are passing. They're going to pass into death, or if somebody is sick and we actually want to chant a mantra to keep them healthy. It's used in that way as well. It's used in that way that keeps us anchored in the self, in the soul. So whether it's going to inhabit a healthy body or whether it's going to leave the body, either way, it anchors us in the soul, in the spirit, in that third eye, when it begins by saying, oh, the God of three eyes, right? Why are we focused on the third eye? Because it's that eye, that way of seeing truth. That's what the third eye is. This chakra here, this energy center here, where we put our tilak, where you all got the nice red tilak that somebody's put on everybody in the group. Why do we do it there? We do it because it reminds us, oh yeah, I don't only have these two eyes that I see physical world from, but I actually have this eye through which I see the truth. These eyes show us objects. I can see a physical object. I can see a piece of paper. I can see a pillow. I can see my clothes. I can see all of you sitting here. But this eye is what enables us to see truth from falsehood. Means it's the eye that enables me to see the divine. So instead of just seeing an object, I'm actually able to see the truth of that being, which is divinity. So instead of seeing you as beautiful young woman or as handsome man, I'm going to see divinity. These two eyes just see beautiful woman, handsome man. But this eye sees, divinity. Divinity, 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 divinity. So the mantra brings us into connection with that truth of the divinity of who we are, of the divinity of the world, through which we become so ripe, so full, that our attachment to things that are not true, not real, automatically falls off. So as you're embarking on a spiritual path, it's a beautiful mantra to keep chanting. If you can't memorize it all in the beginning, don't worry, you can get it in writing and chant along with it, or just listen to chants of it, because it reminds me, oh yeah, let me become ripe. Let me not think that the spiritual path is this path of pushing and pulling and fighting, but it's a path of self-ripening, such that automatically the chains that bind us, they fall off, and I'm free. So thank you for bringing us into that beautiful re-remembrance. We'll begin, as always, with a question that comes in advance, and then open it up to any questions here. I am 22 years old, and I've been trying to save my parents' marriage and family problems until I realized that that is not my role. So I've distanced myself from them after that, but now I feel that I need them. How do I come to terms with this? And how do I find a balance? So it's very important, of course, for children to know that their role never can be to keep their parents together. It's something that children always struggle with. Whenever parents get divorced, children always feel like, I should have done something. I could have done something. If somehow I were better, my parents wouldn't fight. And this is true even if parents don't get divorced. If parents just fight but they stay together, kids always feel it's my fault. So of course the first piece is not your fault. And no, you're not going to be able to hold them together. That being said, as we get older, as we're no longer young children, but this person says they're 22, sometimes as we grow, we actually do develop insight, awareness, understanding that absolutely can help our parents. Not that it becomes our responsibility to solve their problems and keep them together, but we may absolutely develop a relationship with our parents in which we can offer something, in which maybe we have a clarity that they don't have. And so feel free, in whatever way you can, to help them. Sometimes a child is the only one who can help, because a child is the only one who, and not a young child, but an older child, who can actually see both sides of it. Most people don't see the mess that goes on in our homes, right? I mean, people are fighting and then someone rings the doorbell and suddenly it's like, hello, hi, how are you? We don't let the neighbor who's just come by know that 30 seconds ago, people inside the house were on the verge of killing each other. Somebody calls on the phone. We were screaming at each other. Phone call comes and suddenly it's, hi, yeah, we're fine, how are you? So sometimes an adult child may actually have the insight that's needed to help parents. So even though it's not your responsibility, even though it's not your role, even though in many cases, no, you're not going to be able to solve it, if you are an adult, like you're 22, rather than 6 or 8 or 12, and you have insight, by all means, talk to your dad alone, talk to your mom alone, see if there's a way. But a lot of times there isn't. And that, the first and most important piece, of course, is to realize, as I said, not your fault. Nothing you could have done. Sometimes people just are not compatible, not meant to be together. Even if they're both wonderful people in their own ways. Sometimes people just are not meant to be together. But that doesn't mean that we as the child need to pull away from the relationship. So it's not a choice between save their marriage and don't have anything to do with them. You can absolutely maintain a relationship with them. They are your parents. But just have kind of a moratorium on, I don't want to talk about it. Once you've tried and you realize it's not going to work, you can absolutely, as an adult child, and you should, put your foot down and say, Mom, I don't want to hear any nonsense about Dad. Dad, I don't want to hear any nonsense about Mom. It'll actually be good for them. Because when we're fighting, we get so caught up that that's the only reality, that that's all we can talk about, it's all we can think about. And to actually have a child say, I don't want to hear it, create space for them to realize that there is a life other than just the fighting that they're having with their spouse. So by all means, keep the relationship, stay in touch with them, but don't allow yourself to get pulled into a drama that you're not able to help. And that's part of growing up, because whether it's your parents, whether it's your friends, as we grow up in life, we have to learn how to find a balance between solving other people's problems, getting wrapped up in other people's problems, but also maintaining healthy relationships of love with people. And so you've been given this opportunity at a young age to learn it with your parents, and it'll stand you in very good stead as you grow to have this same relationship with other people. I love you. I'm here for you. I can't solve this problem. And no, I don't want to hear you talk nonsense about my mother, my father, my other friend. Let's talk about something else. And that's the habits that we learn of how to have healthy relationships in life, how to have boundaries. Just because you're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean that you become their garbage disposal or their garbage bag, that whatever is going on inside them, you have to take it. You absolutely can say, this isn't healthy. And as I said, that will actually help them. Because to simply criticize someone and to be stuck in negativity isn't helpful for either of your parents either. So you can help them in that way, even if you can't help save the marriage. You can help them each stay peaceful and grounded in the midst of a very difficult situation.